WAND News at 5.
A shooting at Mattoon High School this morning. A student opens fire in the cafeteria, wounding another student. A teacher jumped to action, disarming the gunman. The suspect now in custody. The victim in stable condition in the hospital. WAND News crews have been on the scene shortly after those shots rang out. We have team coverage for you tonight.
We certainly do, and we start with WAND's Doug Wolfe, who talked to students who witnessed the whole thing. Doug?
Caitlin's dialed in.
Well, Dawn, this is the type of thing you would never think would happen in a small town like Mattoon, but it did, and the teachers and police were ready to handle it. For students at Mattoon High School, a day of terror and confusion.
Well, I was in the weight room because I was in PE, and then a teacher came up to the door and started jiggling the door and was like, "You need to get out, you need to get out."
Shots fired in a school cafeteria without warning.
You could just hear this noise, and it sounded like someone was slamming books on a table or something. And then you just hear like screams, and I ran back into the classroom that I was in, and the teacher was just like, "No, no, no, run out."
The first instincts to figure out what happened and then escape.
I didn't think it was a drill because of the distress in the woman's voice whenever she called lockdown. So I thought it was pretty serious, but I didn't think it, because the teacher was so calm about it, we didn't think it was anything too terribly serious because of the way he handled the situation.
And all the kids were freaking out, saying that there was a shooting in the cafeteria, and then everyone just started going ballistic when that happened.
Students were taken to Riddle Middle School where they were processed and released to their parents. Hugs and tears, ending a long morning. Students were reunited with their parents between 1 and 2 this afternoon at Riddle Elementary. Streets are still blocked off around Mattoon High School by the Illinois State Police. Reporting live in Mattoon, Doug Wolfe, WAND News.
Doug, thanks. While students were moved to safety, police canvassed the school.
WAND's Meredith Juliet has been on the scene at Mattoon High since shortly after it happened. Meredith.
A student was wounded after a school shooting that happened at Mattoon High School earlier this morning. Police say shots rang out at 11:32 this morning in the cafeteria. That's when the student was wounded. Now, police say a teacher was actually the one who took down the shooter, disarming them. Neighbors around the school say the response time for law enforcement was very quick. They said it all seemed very organized, and we know that several different police stations responded to that call of shots fired in the high school.
When I arrived here with the other officers, the suspect was contained, secured, and the one victim that was involved in the shooting was transported to Sarah Bush Hospital, where I believe the last report is in stable condition.
Now, all the students were taken to Riddle Elementary School to be reunited with their parents. Currently, students can't get to their cars in the parking lot because this is an ongoing active scene. Now, police say the last they heard, the student who was wounded is in stable condition. Live in Mattoon, Meredith Juliet, WAND News.
Meredith, thanks.
For that.
Parents and neighbors remain on edge tonight.
No doubt. WAND's Lexi Ratterman continues our team coverage now. Lexi, what are parents saying tonight?
They are definitely in shock. You have heard from officials to students, but there is so much more on the parent end of this that you haven't heard a whole lot about. They say it was their worst nightmare, and they also say they felt like they were a little in the dark during the whole situation. One Mattoon High School family lives not even a block away from the school. The mom was at work when she got a simple text from her daughter saying, "I'm okay." The mom says she didn't know what to think when she read the text, and her daughter told her what had happened.
First of all, I went out and told my husband, and I did lock my doors. I'm thinking, okay, what if somebody's running through the neighborhood looking for a place to hide? And then after I heard all the sirens and saw the commotion, I thought, there's nobody going to be here at my house, so I come outside to see what was going on.
Neighbors say they watched police respond very quickly to the situation and are very proud of how it was handled. Now at 6 o'clock, there will be a prayer service and a comfort service for the families and students that were affected by this situation. As always, continue to stick with WAND as we give you the information as we are given it. Live in Mattoon, Lexi Ratterman, WAND News.
Thanks, Lexi. Mattoon School District officials say they're saddened by today's event and will provide counseling for students in need. They added their thoughts and prayers are with the injured student. Again, here's what we know right now. Just before 11:30 this morning, a student fired shots in the cafeteria at Mattoon High School. One student was wounded. We do know a teacher helped disarm the gunman. That shooter is now in custody, and police believe the student acted alone. As for the victim, we're told that person is in stable condition. Stay with WAND News at 6 and 10 for up-to-date information.
Illinois' best source for news and weather. WAND News at 6.
A student opened fire at Mattoon High School. A teacher jumps into action, disarming the gunman. One person wounded in the shooting.
Happening right now, a prayer vigil at Fields Church. The group praying and comforting each other after today's school shooting.
WAND News has had crews on scene since shortly after the shots rang out. We have team coverage for you tonight.
We start with Meredith Juliet, who is at the high school now. Meredith, what is the latest?
A student fired shots in Mattoon High School earlier today. That shooting leaving one student wounded. It happened at 11:32 this morning in the school's cafeteria. Police say a teacher was actually the one who took down and disarmed that student shooter. Around the school saying the response time for law enforcement was very quick. They say it seemed fairly organized, and we know that several different police stations responded to the call of shots fired in the high school.
When I arrived here with the other officers, the suspect was contained, secured, and the one victim that was involved in the shooting was transported to Sarah Bush Hospital, where I believe the last report is in stable condition.
Now, all of the students were taken to Riddle Elementary School. That was the safe zone to be picked up by their parents. Police telling us the last they heard, that student who was wounded was in stable condition. Live here in Mattoon, Meredith Juliet, WAND News.
Thanks, Meredith.
While police searched Mattoon High School, students were moved across town to an elementary school. Doug Wolfe was there, talked to students. Doug, good evening.
The good news, an evacuation plan was in place to help students get out of the high school. They were evacuated to Riddle Elementary School. And Meredith was telling us just a few moments ago, school buses came to Riddle Elementary one by one. As students stepped off the bus, you could see that they were visibly shaken. Parents greeted them with hugs while students were taken inside of the school building.
I was in the hallway down, like right past the cafeteria, and you could just hear this noise, and it sounded like someone was slamming books on a table or something. And then you just hear like screams, and I ran back into the classroom that I was in, and the teacher was just like, no, 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 run out of the school. So all of us just ran as fast as we could. It was horrifying.
After students were processed at Riddle Elementary School, they were released to their parents. Although many were upset, no other students were injured. Reporting live in Mattoon, Doug Wolfe, WAND News.
Today's shooting has neighbors in shock as well. One woman has lived in the area for more than 25 years, says she was worried during the whole situation after her daughter called to tell her what had happened.
First of all, I went out and told my husband, and did lock my doors. I'm thinking, okay, what if somebody's running through the neighborhood looking for a place to hide? And after I heard all the sirens and saw the commotion, I thought, there's nobody going to be here at my house, so I come outside to see what was going on.
Happening right now, WAND's Lexi Ratterman is at a prayer service in Mattoon, which aims to offer comfort tonight.
Emotions are extremely high for good reason here in Mattoon, and just a little bit ago, this lobby is empty. I'm in the Fields Church, where they are holding a prayer and comfort gathering for the community. The church says that pretty much the whole community has shut down in terms of jobs and in terms of sports and practices. So this is something that they wanted to do for the community, again, to help them in their comfort.
It's pretty tragic for a smaller town, but also there's a lot of students that attend here, and we wanted families, parents, grandparents just to have a place to gather. We're not the only place. The community has been so strong today, and it's great to see that through something like this. We live in a strong town.
The The service is consisting of music and inspirational statements from pastors. It's happening right now, again, at the Fields Church until about 7 o'clock tonight. Now, it's empty, like I said, right now, but just a little bit ago, this lobby was filled with dozens of people hugging and crying, and it was again, a very emotional day for the community of Mattoon. Now, at 10 o'clock tonight, I will have a full recap of all of the events that happened today. Until then, live in Mattoon, Lexi Ratterman, WAND News.
Again, here's what we know right now. Just before 11:30 this morning, a student fired shots in the cafeteria at Mattoon High School. Another student wounded. We do know a teacher helped disarm the gunman. That shooter now in custody, and police believe the student acted alone. We're told the victim is in stable condition. Stay with us on WAND News at 10 and up-to-date information, of course, at WANDTV.com.
Well, this situation is a scary one you don't think will ever happen at your school or where your child goes. Students and parents, of course, on edge. But it's hard to talk about this topic, especially if your kid was at the school. Shots rang out. And joining us now is Dr. Diane Pleasant. Thank you so much for being here, Diane.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, how should parents talk to their kids if they were in that school?
Well, first of all, I think that all of us should go home and hug our children and be thankful that they're all safe. But, the most important thing is talk to your children. A lot of them are going to experience this traumatic experience in different ways. They, may be angry, they may be sad, they may be crying, they may be hysterical, they may be shaking. Find ways to comfort them and listen. That's the important thing, is to listen to them. How
do you make them feel safe, or how do you talk to your kids about gun violence in school, period?
Well, hopefully that we're expressing the knowledge that guns and other weapons are not appropriate for schools. So if we hear rumors, if we see anything that is suspicious, to draw any concerns, that we're reporting it to the appropriate authorities, to teachers, to parents, so we can take action to keep that violence outside of the schools.
Okay, that is a good tip. What about schools? What resources are available for the parents at those schools and for the kids at those schools, at any school?
Most schools will have counseling services available on site, and I'm sure that Mattoon is going to be able to have those services available to the students and to the parents as well. But there are also other avenues that we can explore using the internet, making searches, looking on Facebook, comforting one another, and taking all those steps to making sure that we deal with this traumatic experience as a community.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pleasant. We appreciate you coming in and giving your insight.